Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Mornings with Marvel, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. Good morning to each and every one of you. We are live. It is now November 12th, 2025. It is 36 degrees and cloudy outside, and Lord have mercy. Oh, honey, it has been so intense in ways that y'all like my little hat. Do you see my little hat? That's just kind of this. It's hat season. I have no hair. I have very little hair on my. Well, no, I have long hair, thick hair, but it's all curled up in a little thing, and so it's cold outside, and I'm going to always. You'll see me wear different hats as time goes on. This is one of them. Um, my morning motivation today comes from a woman by the name of Junie. I'm assuming she lives in New York. I am aware that she's Jamaican because I went up and down her page, and she is quite an avid writer. I also suspect that she's incredibly ill. Just from the way she writes, but I don't see anything like she talked once about, going to the doctor and that they canceled her appointment, da, 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 da. And I suspect that there's something going on with her, but I'm paying homage to her this morning because her writing haunts me as a direct result of just having a bunch of random dreams. I texted someone this morning and I said, I've had a bunch of crazy dreams and you were in one of them. I just want to make sure you were okay. And it just feels like all the things that are in our souls, all the things that concerns us while we are awake is now haunting us while we're sleeping. And so I looked up a couple of things. One of them was a meteorologist talking about some kind of energetic field force that's hit the Earth's sphere twice this week. And one of them is supposed to be like the highest they've ever seen, like a 4 or 5. It's supposed to hit Earth's atmosphere around noon today. And they said that it will impact the GPS systems, it will impact our computers, it will impact our emails, could impact, right? All the satellite systems are going to be having kinds of issues. And then I said to myself, well, damn, if it's impacting our satellite systems, what is it doing to our bodies and our minds, right? Because it just feels really strange out here. By the way, hit the like button. Please hit like and subscribe so that others can find us. And so here we go. All right, let me read Johnny's words to all of you. Good morning, good morning. Sleepless in two worlds. Sometimes, she says, I feel as though we are living in two worlds, one that is real, heavy with consequence, and another that is make believe, floating on denial. I see so many Black women losing their income, myself included, while others try to hold on with quiet dignity. Meanwhile, white folks seem bolder, sharper, meaner than ever. Conversations with young Black people remind me of how differently they see things. Their vision is clear eyed, unclouded by illusions, shaped by both survival and imagination. Yet when I look at some older Black folks, I see a comfort that feels almost surreal. Some appear settled into privilege or insulated by business success, as if the storm cannot reach them. At times it feels like delusion, at other times it feels like exhaustion. Maybe deep down, they are simply hoping for a day when unity and possibility felt closer within reach. Yesterday, she said, I unplugged. I had to retreat inside my own head, spin a false narrative just to cope with a world that feels unmoored. Another Black founder lost their company. I am not a financial analyst. I can't trace the numbers or pontificate about markets, but I can see the pattern. Black businesses faltering, Black communities divided, fractures widening. And there are the moments so sharp they cut through every illusion. A Black man losing his home over a $5,000 water lien. Mm-mm-mm. A life unraveled not by extravagance or greed, but by a bill. For some, $5,000 is a passing inconvenience. For him, it was the line between shelter and displacement. Can you imagine losing your home over a $5,000 water bill lien. And people, before we start to say, well, why didn't he pay his bill? You all have lived now in this harsh reality for the last 11 months. For those of you who had not been a part of it, and you've seen the harsh reality in front of you, many of you are experiencing it. You know you can lose your home over a lien. You know you can. Um, that is he says, for him it was the line between shelter and displacement. That is the dissonance, the fissure. It is the paradox of living in a plaza where tourists stroll unbothered, Uber drivers hustle endlessly, and the machinery of the world keeps spinning as if nothing is broken. So I ask myself, is the world truly mad? Or is it that I can see too clearly the madness we have learned to normalize? Perhaps the world has always been fractured. Perhaps what feels unbearable now is that fewer of us can keep pretending it's whole. Two worlds, one where survival is a fight, one where denial is a luxury. I can't rest in either, she says, so I lay awake in the fissure, telling myself stories to survive a world gone mad. I felt like she was describing things that so many of us had been speaking up for, as we saw it coming and happening. And those dreams, excuse me, those dreams that we've been experiencing while we try to sleep. Some nights I can sleep through them. Other nights, like last night, I barely got an hour's sleep because every time I closed my eyes, I was dreaming another dream, and I was dreaming in different worlds, in different shades, in different things that are coming, things that are happening, things that are going to happen. It was the craziest ish ever, right? And so when these things are going on, I try to speak to all of you, about as it's happening. Families are really, 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 people are not voicing out loud the struggles that they're feeling within their families. Not having the job, something keeps breaking. You think you have everything together, somebody gets deathly ill. You think you got everything together, something breaks in your house. You think you have everything together, you lose a job, right? The very job that will help you to pay your health insurance, your car insurance, just so you can buy groceries. Those are the things that I'm talking about. And if it feels heavy to you as we lead into the season of Thanksgiving, where so many people, the only thing some people can speak for is Thanksgiving for life. I heard the Jamaicans saying it all the time. Everything is gone. One woman said yesterday, I need clothes for my children. They were wading through water because the water has not receded in many parts. And so people were coming, trying to figure out how to get to where they were, to give them a sandwich and an apple. The things you just don't even know that folks are going through. Oh yeah, I did already. Um, it is an intense, feeling I can't describe to many of you unless you're experiencing it. And so people are walking around in a fog. Junie, her name is Junie Hibbert, Junny. People are walking around in this fog of what am I going to do? How am I going to do? And so while folks are coming out to vote and do their very best, it's really intense out here. It is truly intense. Let me look at your chat before I go into talking to the news, speaking to the news. Hey, Tamara, how are you, my darling? Good morning, Marguerite. I see you. Please make sure you guys hit the like button. Laverne, Donette. Good morning, my darling. Good morning. Alexandra Jackson says there's currently a Mercury retrograde going on November 9th to the 29th. It's going to be a roller coaster for the next few days. Tamara says we have energy fields all around us, so that makes sense. Good morning, Dennis. Good morning, my darling. Tamara, it's wild. I don't even have words to describe. Yesterday, I took myself to go see my grandchildren. They were all from school because the banks closed down for the day. It was a national holiday, right? Veterans Day. And I looked at my daughter-in-law and she says, I'm going out to the garage to, blah, 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 blah. I said, come on, I went out there. I worked so hard, I don't need to exercise for the next 20 days, right? We cleaned out the garage, did all of that. And then something said, usually when the babies go to sleep, I go home. Something said stay. So I stayed and I sat. My son came up, with his laptop in his hand, he's working. And I sat beside him and I hugged him and I kept hugging him. And he's like, Mom, ah. But then you could see him leaning into me because he wanted that hug. Right? Scraped up his front door trying to get something out of it. I ran to the paint store, trying like all the things, just trying to keep a sense of normalcy because nothing feels normal anymore. Just nothing feels normal. Nothing feels normal. It is insane. Laverne says, I'm a dreamer. Most times are messages. Other times I'm just off. So I'm mindful about what I consume before bed. Oh, that could be true. I had sardines and yogurt for dinner last night. That may have been my thing, right? Let me see what else is on here so I can make sure. Good morning. Good morning, Laura. Good morning, all of you. I see you. Good morning, Bobby Carr. Thank you all so much for taking the time to join me each and every day. I appreciate it. So let me Shaquilla, good morning. Good morning, Viola. Andrea says Mercury got us feeling topsy turvy. Yep, child. I felt all the way down on. Oh, she said I felt all the way down my steps on Sunday, and my dreams have been bananas. Jesus be offense. I know, Andrea, so I went from my bedroom to another bedroom just so I could and I climbed all of those and I was like, let me try and get some sleep. Every time I shut my eyes, it was like all these weird dreams, right? Laverne says, I planned a full day to organize while off. I ended up sleeping most of the day. I have to be intentional about my mental rest as well as physical. Absolutely. I don't know, Andrea. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know. Good morning, Roz. I don't know how we're going to navigate all of this, but hey, as long as I can, I will show up for all of you in the midst of this. And when I need my own mental health days, my father is just a couple of days away from visiting. So when I need my own mental health days, I'll let you all know, and Mother will not be on. All right, so there's two things I want to do. Let me read. This was written by The Hill on MSN.com. And I want you all to listen. It was updated 20 hours ago, written on November 11th. It's an opinion by Bill Press, opinion contributor. November 4th marks the death knell for the old guard. Politics is not an exact science, he says. The results of some elections are hard to read, but not last week's. The results from the four major races on November 4th, a governor race in Virginia and New Jersey, a mayor's race in New York City, and an initiative campaign in California, leave no doubt. Add in lesser known but still important down ballot results: two Democrats elected to the Georgia Public Service Commission, three Pennsylvania Supreme Court justices retained, two Democrats elected to the Mississippi State Senate, and an expansion of Democratic control of the Virginia House of Representatives, and their meaning resonates even more loudly and clearly. There is no way President Trump or his supporters can explain away or spin it otherwise. This off year election was first and foremost a complete repudiation of Trump. It was the first time voters had an opportunity to vote thumbs up or thumbs down on Trump 2.0, and they clearly did not like what they saw. In exit polls, many voters said they felt they'd been betrayed. Trump promised to cut the cost of groceries, and he didn't. He seemed to be spending more time on the golf course or entertaining foreign dictators than working for average Americans, and they resented it. He lost big time. November 4th was also an unmistakable statement of what's important to voters. In their ads, Trump and Republicans tried to make it an election about immigration, crime, or trans. That didn't work. Almost every pre election poll and exit poll showed there was one issue paramount in voters' minds: the cost of living. Groceries, rent, utilities, eggs, gas. And that's the issue Abigail Spanberger in Virginia, Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey, and Zoran Mandani in New York made the centerpiece of their winning campaigns: affordability. But for winning Democrats and losing Republicans, there is one other unmistakable lesson from last week's election returns. It is a lesson both parties will ignore at their own peril. And that lesson is this: it is long past time to pass the torch to a new generation of leadership. It doesn't matter that Spanberger and Sherrill are centrists and Mandani a self-described democratic socialist. All three of them represented what voters were looking for. They're tired of the pablum offered by fossils of both parties. They're hungry for a new, younger generation of leadership: new blood, new energy, new faces, and bold new ideas. No matter how good a job you've done in elected office, there comes a time Definitely before the age of 75, if not before. When you are worn out, you're welcome. When it's time to step aside and pass the baton. Sadly, that's a lesson Senator Dianne Feinstein from California and President Joe Biden never learned, and their refusal to step down will forever tarnish their reputation. It is also a lesson Donald Trump seems to ignore as he teases running for a third term in 2028 when he would be 82. Too many politicians still don't get it. With an average age of 58.9, according to NBC News, this is the third oldest Congress since 1789. 50 Democratic members of the House are over 70, including DC Eleanor Holmes Norton, who is declining in health at 88, still insists she's running for re-election. Senator Chuck Grassley, Republican of Iowa, stop it, y'all. Grassley is 92. At 92, the oldest member of Congress has already filed papers with the FEC to run for re-election in 2028. And talk about tone deaf, totally ignoring the lessons of November 4th, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer recruited Maine Governor Janet Mills to challenge Republican Susan Collins in 2026. Mills may have been a good governor, but she's 77 years old. If elected, she would be the oldest freshman senator ever. Seriously, in all of Maine, couldn't Schumer find someone younger? If not from Spanberger, Sherrill, and Mandani, politicians from both parties should learn a lesson from former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who on her own made the tough decision to pass the torch to the next generation. She did this not once but twice. First in 2022 when she stepped down as Speaker and endorsed Rep. Hakeem Jeffries of New York, and the second time last week when she announced she would not seek re-election in 2026. Pelosi set the example other senior politicians should now follow. The message to them from November 4th is clear. Thanks for your service, but we don't want you around anymore. We want a new generation of young leaders. Please get out of the way. Bill Press is host of Bill Press Podcast. He's the author from The Left, A Life in the Crossfire. So what are your thoughts? Do you think you should do you do you think you should still be running for office? And listen, there under no circumstances do I want to sound or be ageist. But at some point, if you are, good morning, Myra, if you have been in office since 1985 and you keep running for re-election over and again, and you're now 92 like Chuck Grassley, at what point do you, and it's happening not just in politics, it's happening in leadership. I can right here in Philadelphia, there's some leaders who should have retired. They're going into 70 something years old. And instead of grooming the next person to come along or the next group of people to come along, they keep accepting awards. They keep showing up, running up and down all over the place. And I'm saying, at what point, which is why we get so stagnant for so long. I have said this over and again. Nobody should run for more than 2 terms in any office, but we get comfortable. We get comfortable and, we love the payments. We like the ego. We like, this is a lot of stuff. And so we just keep sitting there and sitting there and sitting there. And it never occurred to us, right, that we should just pass the torch on to somebody else and let someone do it. DST says, people keep voting for them. Pelosi made the agreement to leave when she was selected to be the speaker the last time. No surprise there. Chuck Grassley doesn't want to give up the power, so he's going to die in office. That's the thing. Angela says, move itch, get out the way. No, you didn't. Angela says, Donald Trump is living the life of an international businessman with an unlimited checkbook. You all are hilarious. Hold on. Oh yeah, Marguerite, I'm getting my proteins in, and you can tell because my muscles are starting to pop up. As Dr. Jana says, I believe our loved ones who pass come to us in our dreams. It's real communication. Yeah, probably, more than likely, but I didn't see my mama. I saw everything else, right? Oh, Dave, it's you, Dave. Okay, it's Dave Lipscomb. Okay. Dave says, we have to remember the political system is built on seniority. And Marguerite says, not attempting to be ageist, not attempting to be age basis. I believe each generation has its own perspective, and nowadays we need fresh eyes on today's matters. Yeah. Um, yeah, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court Justice, Barack Obama was trying to get her to resign, step down so he could put someone in to replace her. She decided, it's amazing. And we have to ask ourselves, what is it that causes us to stay long past the time we are supposed to be there? What is it that stops us from moving on and trying and doing different things, right? Um uh Alexandra says he's going to die sitting in a chair during a committee meeting. And the other one that keeps falling and stripping and falling. I keep forgetting him. And has frozen a couple of times. She says, Marguerite says, will we have another interview with your father this trip? He's amazing. He don't know when to stop. Joanne says, at the point people are calling out your age and you don't have the sense to step down. 92 though, what keeps you? My husband just sent me a text. He says, sardines and yogurt, are you pregnant? Oh, you got jokes today. Andrea says, it's not why do they keep running. It's not why do they keep running. It should be, why do people keep voting for them? And why isn't there a viable other? We need fresh eyes, but we got to vote the fresh eyes in when they run. So part of the issue was they challenge the people who want to run against them. They have meetings with them and tell them it's not your turn. If you decide to step into the race, we're going to make your life miserable. Those kinds of things are happening behind the scenes. And so it looks like we have no other options, but there are options. So what we have to do is encourage the people, not only encourage the people who wants to run despite whether they get endorsed or not, right? But then show up and support them monetarily. You cannot win elections on air, water, and good grace. You just cannot. You cannot. And to make sure that they have, those who want to step up have a solid platform when they're running in the primaries. Now, if you're independent or from another party, you can't run in the primaries. You have to be ready to move when it's time for the primary elections. And I get Mitch McConnell. Lord have mercy, that man has fallen so many times, but they keep propping him up and putting him in there. There has to be a serious conversation within both parties around. We see the handwriting on the wall. We see the drum beat. We see the young people are stepping in, 20-year-old mayors and 30-year-old district attorneys. And look, all these things are happening around us. And we keep saying it's an anomaly. And it just isn't. People are just tired. The same way they voted in Donald Trump as president because they were sick of politicians on both sides is what's happening here. And you can say, well, they don't know anything. They don't know. Then teach them. They're learning from you, though. They're learning from you what to do and what not to do. But this cannot this is just nuts. It's just nuts. They're gatekeeping. Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm seeing something here. Sandra says, what makes us stay past our time? Sometimes it's pride, other times it's ego. But if you're failing in health, I mean, I am almost 60 at this point. I'm not failing in health yet, but I'm starting to feel my age. I might look cute, but I'm starting to feel my age. And so when you get to 92 and you say, well, I can still do this. What? I don't understand it. David says the ego keeps people there. Mitch McConnell. Laura says, what stops us is staying in our comfort zone. Dolores said, okay, all right, I will. All right. Okay, all right. Please call and leave a message. I think I have her number, but okay. Joanne says, when you're too old to drive, they take away your license. How about that? Andrea says they are gatekeeping, and that has to stop. We have to stop allowing that gatekeeping to continue. Alexandra says Chuck Grassley's constituents are currently not happy with him and the GOP party. I believe he's going to be primaried out if he lives much longer. So there are thoughts around that. And then I want you all to hear this because it's a thing. Hold on. Give him over a minute. Let me see if I can find it. Because I put it up yesterday and I said, because somebody told me I was on social media all day yesterday. Hold on.
More Americans on both sides of the aisle blaming Republicans. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene blamed the GOP. As you mentioned, Democrats had big wins last week, so you had momentum. Why give in now? Why bring a butter knife to a gunfight? Are you willing to gamble that the GOP will negotiate on health care in good faith once the government reopens? Because if that gamble is wrong, 500,000 Pennsylvanians that you represent, their health care costs will skyrocket if you are wrong. And I believe you are wrong.
Well, first of all,
Fetterman.
MTG is quite literally the last person in America that I'm going to take advice or to get their kinds of my leadership and values from. And now, if Democrats are celebrating crazy pants like that, then that's on them. And now I don't need a lecture. I don't need a lecture from whether it's Bernie or the governor in California, because they are representing very deep blue kinds of populations, and a lot of those things were part of the extreme. And now remember, what really needs to win, the big win, is involving my state and other states and those things. And why have we arrived here after the election a year ago? We got to forget some of the things that cost us that election. Or now, for me, it's like, that's why I'm trying to remind people that kinds of the extremism, we can't return to those kind of things, and realize we need to find a way forward. And I would like to, rather than cite MTG, I'm going to cite one of the new governor-elects saying that my election is not a green light to continue the shutdown, because I promise you, this isn't a political game. It is viewed by many of us, but the reality is 42 million Americans now not sure where their next meal is going to come from, and because we vote like that, or people that haven't been paid for 5 weeks now, and that kinds of chaos.
Poll after poll.
All right, y'all.
Americans on both sides.
Sorry,
of the
y'all.
aisle
Hold on. That was Sunny Hostin, who is on The View as a lawyer, who was interviewing State Senator, Senator John Fetterman at the federal level. And he gave a statement that I was still trying to, I think I understand a little bit more, because I listened to it a couple of times and I kept saying to myself, what is he saying? And he kept saying to the Democrats, they. Are you not a part of the Democratic Party, sir? And what is happening here? So three of the people who voted to reopen the government do not come up for re-election until 2028, and so they're hoping that people will forget, and another good portion of them are not up for re-election. So we have to see what happens here, but we are in a state that I'm not really sure. Alexandra says, oh my Lord, oh my. Alexandra says Fetterman needs to remember that his health care for his stroke and mental health is paid for by those here in Pennsylvania. There's that. Sandra says MTG is Marjorie Taylor Greene is looking to save her political career. She's been flip-flopping too much of late. And yeah, we know he was not in person. Most people are not in person anymore. Viola, they do like I do, right? Have someone show up by link. Angela said Fetterman has to go, and says he was a fox in sheep's clothing, and that's our fault. We voted it in. But what were the options, right? We had Malcolm Kenyatta. There was conversation that they were not having him because he was openly gay. What is this thing about gay people that you think they shouldn't run for office? You think they're going to make everybody else gay? What is that about? Tell me what that is. It is such a hot bobbycock that I can't even understand why we're there, right? Donette Paris says people refuse to let go of the power and do what they're supposed to do. Well, now Malcolm Kenyatta is at the vice chair at the national level, and he seems to be speaking up about some stuff, Lord, just too much. And I'm deliberately not saying, let's go from there. Let's see. Let me cover a little bit of news over on this side. It is up to the United States Supreme Court and Congress to decide when full payments will resume under the SNAP food aid program that helps 1 in 8 Americans buy groceries. Let me stop right here. The United States of America is purportedly one of the wealthiest countries in the world. There are a little bit over 300 million people here now, living here. sans all the folks they sent back wherever. And are you telling me 1 in 8 people need SNAP benefits? How are we not concerned about that? Why is it that people aren't getting paid enough so that they do not need supplemental health help from the government? Why are we making people feel ashamed about having to get supplemental help from the government when the businesses and industries are not paying them, and those who are getting paid are now being laid off en masse because of robots? Do you understand that 1 in 8 is going to become 1 in 2, 1 in 3, and they're already trying to remove the SNAP program so that people can figure it out on their own? Do you understand what is upon us here? That's the conversation that I keep trying to have with people. The SNAP food aid program helps 1 in 8 Americans buy groceries, as some wonder how they will feed their families without government assistance. The Supreme Court is expected to rule yesterday on a request from President Donald Trump's administration to keep blocking states from providing full supplemental nutrition assistance program benefits, otherwise known as SNAP, arguing that the money might be needed elsewhere. If the money was already sitting and waiting, where else is it needed? The legal wrangling could be moot if the U.S. House adopts and Trump signs legislation to quickly end the federal government shutdown. That was written by WHYY.org. 8 Democratic U.S. senators, this is national news, broke rank with their party Sunday night to reach a deal with Republicans to end the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. A total absence of government funding since October 1st has pushed airports to their limits as air traffic controllers go unpaid, left SNAP recipients at the mercy of a political battle, and forced countless federal employees out of work. The compromise legislation funds the federal government and ensures back pay for furloughed workers, among other things, but notably fails to extend the expiring Affordable Care Act tax credits, meaning 24 million people nationwide will face skyrocketing premiums. WHYY.org again. For those of you who are on here listening that are a federal government worker, can you talk to us a little bit about what that feels like? Angela, if you're still on, can you call 215-400-0146 for me, please? 215-400-0146 if you are able or willing to talk about this. This is a conversation that I truly want to have. 215-400-0146. Please call that number for me. You ready for this? Gather your edges. Health officials are warning that there may have been a possible measles exposure at the Philadelphia International Airport. The Philadelphia Department of Public Health says an individual with measles was traveling through the airport and that the exposure may have happened at terminals A and B at PHL on Sunday between 8:50 a.m. and 4 p.m. We believe there is no threat to the general public associated with this case of measles. Huh? Measles is so contagious. You're in the airport. You're walking through the airport. You're sitting. You're buying your food. You're touching the things. You then get on an airplane with controlled air, and you sit there with measles. What? We encourage people who are possibly exposed to take action if they are not protected against measles. The health department is encouraging people who are exposed to check their vaccination status and watch for symptoms. Hold on 1 second. Since they said that, let me go on over here. Just craziness. Symptoms of measles. So we can get in adults and children. Let's start with adults, shall we? All right, let's see. Measles symptoms include a fever, cough, runny nose, and red eyes may appear first. Then these complex spots might appear 2 or 3 days later and fade when the rash begins. The rash appears 3 to 5 days after your initial symptoms start. So just know that if measles symptoms don't appear all at once, a fever, cough, runny nose, and red eyes may appear first. Complex spots may appear 2 to 3 days later and fade when the rash begins. The rash appears 3 to 5 days after your initial symptoms start. So if for some reason you were in the terminal A and B at the Philadelphia International Airport between 8:50 in the morning and 4 p.m. that evening. Please note that you could be exposed to measles and that you can move accordingly. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot. Okay, so let me see what else is going on here. And that was written by 6abc.com. Listen to this. The things that they put in this bill that you all don't know about, that they're forcing people to pass. A provision of the legislative package that would end the government shutdown allows senators to bring lawsuits if federal law enforcement seizes or subpoenas their data without notifying them, with potential damages of $500,000 for each violation. The language appears to allow GOP senators to sue over steps that the Justice Department took during special counsel Jack Smith's investigation into President Trump related to the 2020 election. In October, Senate Republicans revealed an FBI document that showed investigators had obtained phone record data from 8 senators and 1 congressman for calls they made in the days before and after the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol. The records were obtained pursuant to a subpoena in 2023, and the new legislation covers alleged violations dating back to 2022. CBSnews.com. I need to dig into that a little bit more. Because essentially what they're saying is you were able to get us. We're trying to cover ourselves. We know. Many of them know. What was it that said it? Steve Bannon says, if we lose these elections, all of us are going to jail, including himself. They know what they've been out there doing. So they're now putting this legislative thing into law that they cannot be subpoenaed. They cannot have their records and their data taken without their knowledge. And if they do, they can sue. They can sue for $500,000 for each violation. They're calling it a violation. It's always been the law that if you're up to no good, that they can get a subpoena. The Department of Justice can get a subpoena from a court, from a judge, and they can start to, they listen to your phone records, all the things, right? To find the evidence that they're looking for. Now they're saying you can't do that without us knowing, and we can sue you for $500,000 for each thing that you do for us. CYA. Oh God. Economists and budget experts are blasting President Donald Trump's latest promise to send Americans $2,000 checks funded by tariff revenue as unviable and baseless, per CNBC. Over the weekend, Trump posted on Truth Social that his administration would soon pay a dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, ! Using money collected from tariffs on imported goods. He also suggested that any leftover funds would go toward paying down the national debt. However, experts say such a move is unrealistic. According to the Treasury Department, the U.S. has collected roughly $195 billion in custom duties this year, far short of the hundreds of billions needed to fund checks for the majority of American households. A payment of $2,000 to just 100 million people would cost $200 billion. And expanding that to 200 million Americans will double the cost. A recent estimate from the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget put the price tag for such a plan as high as $600 billion. Information Network News.com wrote that article. What happens next after Senate votes to reopen the government? On Monday, November 10th evening, the Senate voted 60-40 to approve a measure to fund most federal agencies through January 30th, marking a key step toward ending the historical government shutdown, per NPR. The bill will now move to the House of Representatives and must pass in the chamber before President Donald Trump can sign it into law and officially reopen the government. The Senate breakthrough came after a weekend of negotiations led by a group of moderate Democrats who sought to end the stalemate. The deal emerged when the group agreed to drop the party's immediate demand for a guaranteed extension of Affordable Care Act premium subsidies, instead accepting Senate Majority Leader John Thune's pledge to hold a separate vote on the issue by mid-December. That concession cleared the way for 7 Democrats and 1 independent to join nearly all Republicans in passing the measure. The bill also includes provisions to restore federal employees affected by the shutdown, guarantee back pay, and fund programs such as a SNAP program through September 2026. Many Senate Democrats criticized the compromise, warning the Republicans may not follow through on the promised ACA vote, Affordable Care Act vote, once the government reopens. But now the focus shifts to the House, where the measure faces an uncertain path. Some Democrats have signaled they will not support the Senate compromise, while hardline Republicans may resist any short-term deal that lacks deeper spending cuts. Black Information Network News.com. I knew this was coming. Ex-Philly Art Museum, this is local news. Ex-Philly Art Museum executive Sasha Suda files a lawsuit claiming she was wrongfully terminated. Sasha Suda filed a lawsuit against the Philadelphia Art Museum on Monday, claiming she was wrongfully fired as its CEO last week, following a coordinated effort by several board members who sought to undermine her. The lawsuit filed Monday in Philadelphia's Court of Common Pleas claims Suda's termination was orchestrated by a small, corrupt, and unethical faction of the Board of Trustees that was intent on preserving the status quo. Didn't that happen at the Community College of Philadelphia? But I digress. It accuses the board of multiple breaches of contract and paints a picture of dysfunction within the museum's upper leadership. It adds that her firing did not have a valid basis. PhillyVoice.com wrote that. For those of you who are planning to travel this week, next week, and into Thanksgiving, air travel disruptions continue on Tuesday across the United States, with more than 1,200 flights canceled as the Federal Aviation Administration, otherwise known as the FAA, continues to limit capacity at 40 major U.S. airports amid the government shutdown. Some 1,528 flights within, into, or out of the United States also were delayed on Tuesday, according to FlightAware, along with the 1,200 that had been canceled. At least 799 flights planned for Wednesday have also already been canceled, FlightAware said. The Federal Aviation Administration continues to limit capacity at 40 major airports. Piled on top of that, wintry weather conditions slammed parts of the country on Monday and Tuesday. This was written by 6abc.com. AB. More local news. I swear Philly is going to have an amazing budget. This thing continues. A 60-day warning period for red light cameras along Kelly Drive at Eakins Oval in from the Philadelphia Museum of Art begins on Monday. At the end of the warning period on January 8, 2026, officials with the Philadelphia Parking Authority said in a statement that drivers who violate the red light cameras, will be slapped with a $100 fine. In a statement of the warning period, PPA officials said that red light cameras are at key intersections throughout the city have led to a 58% reduction in drivers running red lights. Officials said in a statement the 146 red light cameras at 34 city intersections that the PPA monitors raises over $23 million raised over $23 million in 2024 for the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation's Transportation Enhancement Grant Program. Approximately half of those funds, PPA officials said, are used for safety improvements in the Philadelphia area. More red light cameras, y'all. This was written by NBCPhiladelphia.com. Local. Another local news. Thousands of Philadelphia security officers with 332 BJ SEIU ratify new contract securing raises and more time off. Union security officers in Philadelphia ratified a new contract Monday guaranteeing higher pay, more time off, and health insurance premiums paid by their employers. A spokesperson for the union said the contract covers about 3,000 workers. Members previously told CBS News Philadelphia that the large majority, more than 2,000, work for Allied Universal. That was CBSNews.com. Sean Diddy Combs could reduce his sentence by participating in a drug rehabilitation program behind bars. That could reduce his sentence by more than a year. He's apparently in the program. He is fully engaged in the work. NBC Philadelphia News.com. That was national news. A mobile lounge at Washington Dulles International Airport crashed into a concourse deck, sending 18 people to the hospital on Monday afternoon, authorities say. Passengers were forced to evacuate using the people mover stairs. The vehicle was shuttling passengers to Concourse D when it struck the dock at an angle as it was putting up to the building at about 4:30 p.m. A Metropolitan Washington Airport's authority spokeswoman said the airport remained open and operating as usual. Video shows a large emergency response. All 18 people who were hurt had injuries described as non-threatening. NBC News Philadelphia, national international news. So, if you have not been paying your tolls, according to the Pennsylvania Turnpike, there are people out here that has $12,000 in on. Huh? You just driving, living la vida loca? That's what you do? $12,000? The Pennsylvania Turnpike said it is partnering with the Attorney General to crack down on dozens of egregiously unpaid toll cases. Drivers who ignore standard collection efforts may now be referred to the Attorney General's Law Division for further enforcement actions, including having civil collection actions filed against them, the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission announced on Monday. In the past year, the Turnpike Commission said it has referred more than 100 cases to the Office of the Attorney General for civil action. Authorities are seeking accountability for drivers who owe a total of $12,000 in unpaid tolls and fees. Child, please. This is insane. As soon as they come in, blip, blip. There's a brand new Netflix house in King of Prussia. The first ever Netflix house is opening in King of Prussia on Wednesday, today, with a red carpet event that brought out the streaming giant's biggest stars on Monday. This free new immersive experience is part of a major comeback by malls, with King of Prussia leading the charge. On November 10th, stars from various Netflix shows walk the red carpet as the streamer opens the doors on the highly anticipated Netflix house. When Netflix House opens to the public today, it will offer the chance to eat at Netflix Bites, which is listed as a casual full-service restaurant with food and craft cocktails that will play on popular Netflix stories and characters. NBCPhiladelphia.com. So I guess that's where everybody will be flocking to now. It's opening today. In more sober news, a death investigation is underway in Montgomery County after a body was found in a garbage can along the Schuylkill River Trail on Monday night. I ride that Schuylkill River Trail. Chopper 6 was over a large police presence in a wooded area near West Washington and Noble Streets in Norristown just before 8 p.m. Action News has learned the body is that of a man who appears to be approximately 40 to 49 years old and who is living unhoused and is undocumented, according to officials. The cause and matter of death have not been released. Anyone with information about the death is asked to call Norristown Police at 610-270-0977. Tips can be left anonymously. That was 6abcnews.com. The public funeral of Kada Scott, the 23-year-old woman who was found dead in Germantown, Philadelphia, 2 weeks after she was reported missing, was held Saturday at the Mount Airy Church of God in Christ. The inside of the sanctuary was adorned in pink, as was Scott's family and closest friends, in honor of her favorite color. At the beginning of the service, mourners viewed a video of Scott's life from when she was a child through high school and college graduation. In addition to her loved ones, elected officials like Mayor Sherelle Parker were also in attendance and spoke. Parker said she recalled seeing Scott in June at the annual Adunde Festival in South Philadelphia. The mayor announced an internship in Scott's honor for young women to help them find work. This is written by PhillyTrib.com. When I say people have lost their minds, people have lost their minds. The Kada Scott case is not over by a long shot. You will see people, posturing about, taking over the case. You will see folks. We already saw Shaka Johnson, who took on Heon King, and there's talk that there are other people involved. But again, talk is not fact, and so we will just keep moving until all the facts come out. A customer at a Michigan McDonald's who was captured on camera throwing hot coffee at an employee was later identified by police. Law enforcement said the Buena Vista Police Department shared video on Facebook asking for the public's assistance in identifying a woman who hurled coffee at a manager at McDonald's in Buena Vista Township outside of Saginaw. MLive reported. Mm-mm-mm. So they're trying to find her. Over a fight over coffee, right? So she'd been waiting for her order for over an hour, and the manager, nope. Yeah, just a lot going on. Someone says, please, Dolores says, please increase the speed limit on Broad Street. Driving 25 miles an hour on Broad Street, you will fall asleep. I just stay on Broad Street, period. Viola says, I use my ways all the time, everywhere the red light cameras are. Yes, 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 yes. If you can navigate Eakins Oval, you can drive anywhere. And that, Marguerite, here's the thing: how Eakins Oval is set up is that you can be halfway through the light when the light changes. It's crazy. Eakins Oval is no joke. So just be careful, not to run that light. Dolores says I don't really care if the person is gay or not, as long as they get the job done. Laura says, according to 47, tariffs are bringing in $19 trillion. Oh, Jesus. There's such a thing as data, reporting. 19 trillion, so checks that would be up to 600 billion would not cause a problem. I don't believe him, she said. There's no proof that we have the $19 trillion. Wow. Angela says, I felt offended by the attempt to bribe the American people. Keep the $2,000 and fix what's wrong. That's what I want. Signed, federal employee. Ooh, child. Jesus, there's so much going on. Alexandra says, the new policy is under... Ooh, you all are talking. Okay, hold on. Hold on, because you all are talking, so I want to make sure. Yes, and yes, Andrea. Hold on, I'm getting there. Oh, wait, you all were talking. So Donna, Laura says Fetterman is a plant who lied to us to get us to vote for him. Angela says we need to support the underdog, like you said. We have been voting for the lesser of two evils for far too long. I agree. Alexander says because they won't increase the federal minimum wage. And Andrea said the money is gone. It's lining some gazillionaires' pockets by now. That was the part that I was like, why are they fighting so much to give money that's supposed to be sitting there? Is the money gone? Andrea said what I was thinking. And Alexandra Laverne says, and that does not include the folks who just won't apply but qualify. Yep. Alexandra says the woman has disappeared. The audit from the first appeal court has revealed that. Whoo. Laura says we have gotten the measles vaccine when we were children. I hope it's still. Yeah. Alexandra says Representatives Horsford introduced an amendment last night to pull back the $40 billion from Argentina to fine the ACA tax. Why are you giving the whole of the country $40 billion? Ooh, baby. Andrea says, hold on. Lord Jesus, there's something going on. Andrea says, if you aren't up on your immunizations, please mask up when you visit public spaces for your protection. 6 people still travel and care more about their plans than they do about you. I don't ever walk into an airport without a mask on. Now, fighting my father, I can't breathe. Okay, sir. All right. Well, it was nice, whatever. Tell you, I hope I am not that ornery when I get old. It's too much. Let me see what else is on here. Let's see. Please increase the speed limit on Broad Street. Marguerite says, I haven't driven on Broad Street since this ish started. They won't get $100 per incident. No, ma'am. You listen, right there with you. Viola says I'm a driver and you have to be a bobblehead now these days. It's a lot. Joanne Kemp says there's lots of money swirling around the White House sent elsewhere. Our money. And now we should bow down for $2,000 of our money. Shaquilla says Trump keeps dangling shiny things to distract us. He will not produce anything. Ooh, child, that's a lot. It's a lot. Um, I am going to exercise a little privilege and get off the air a little early so that I can get ready for the gym because, there's that. That's how I keep my sanity, by the way, literally, because there's so much going on. For those of you who are in the middle of crisis, and there are many of you who are there, just know that we continue to lift you up and to, pray for you, and that we will help in any way that we can. Because it's a lot. Continue to pray for the people in Jamaica, Cuba, Dominican Republic, the Philippines. Something strange is happening. The energy shift in this earth is shifting in such a way. Brooklyn is underwater whenever it rains now. Just all sorts of things going on. We've been talking for years that parts of the outer lining of the United States, like Miami, parts of Miami is going to be underwater. Louisiana is already beneath water. They have these things, these dams that's stopping the water from coming in. Parts of New York, Manhattan's going to be underwater. So let's just keep, navigating through all of that. Man, Viola, 50-year mortgages. Come on, man. Listen, that's like signing up to own something that you will never own. If you buy a house at the age of 20, which most people do not, and you take on a 50-year mortgage, you're not owning, you're renting, so that when you die, it goes where? This is so incredibly insane. Um, and folks right now are still trying to figure out how to pay their 30-year mortgages, must their 50 years. What are you owning exactly? And when you die, can you pass on the mortgage to somebody else? No. So what happens when you die still paying that 50-year mortgage? Makes absolutely no sense. So I just won't even delve into it. We're working on bringing some people on to talk about menopause products, drug products that have been offered to women that have the black label on them that warns you that they could possibly harm you. They're saying now they're taking away the black label. Well, then all right, go ahead. I will menopause myself and keep drinking my tea with my what is this, rosemary inside of it, and all the natural things that I have learned how to use to keep myself healthy. This is insane. They want us to take these drugs. There are more side effects than their helpfulness for the drugs. And according to one of my doctors, these drugs only mask the symptoms. They don't do anything to solve them. Right. So, yeah, I'm working on that piece of it so we can have a dialogue around it. But right now, darlings, and it's only 3 minutes early, this episode of Mornings with Marva is officially over. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Bye, everybody. Bye, my